I want to finish up talking about volatility. Obviously, volatility works in both directions, both up and down. Bitcoin, as you mentioned, has incredible annual volatility, but I think you and I both believe that this is a feature, not a bug. Maybe explain a little bit about what that exactly means and why you personally believe that.
So let's go to the idea, like, let's say we were designing Bitcoin from the beginning, and we had this idea of combining a 4-year halving cycle with a 2-week difficulty adjustment in order to create these intrinsic values, these stock to flow valuations. And as we were doing it, we could do something that had this perfect linear intrinsic value growth over time into the model. And I think you could achieve that by adjusting the 4-year halving, maybe make it shorter. I don't necessarily know what the optimal solution would be, but I know that if I move the 4-year halving cycle and the 2-week difficulty adjustment into certain positions, that I could probably remove a lot of the volatility around that intrinsic value price, and that I could have this nice linear growth in the price. So you have to ask yourself, why didn't he design it that way? Or why didn't he or she or them or whoever design it that way? My opinion is that it was designed to have volatility on purpose in order to make it look very speculative and make it look like it was nothing other than what crazy people do, or maybe crazy people trade. And so when I say it's a feature, not a bug, here's an interesting thing about game theory. When you're doing game design, designers of games, and you can read about, I mean, there's books out there on some of this stuff, but game designers use volatility as a tool to bring professionals and non-professionals together in a game. So let me give you an example. So like if we were playing the game of chess, highly skilled game, right? Very highly skilled. If I've been playing my whole life and I've run those repetitions through my neural net millions of times, if you step in and you've played 10 games, I am going to just annihilate you because of all the conditioning that I've done on my neural net. So it is very hard and not fun for a new participant that's learning the game to play somebody who's highly skilled. That is not fun. It's a terrible experience. So if I was going to design a game that would make that more fun for you to play a grand master at chess, all I got to do is introduce volatility into the game. So now let's say that every time we play, I do my move in the game of chess, and let's say that I'm the amateur and I'm playing a grandmaster. Every time the grandmaster plays, before he plays his position, he has to roll a dice, and the dice is 6 numbers. If he rolls an even number, he can play normally. But if he rolls an odd number, he has to skip his turn, and it becomes my turn again. Okay. When I introduce this new logic into the game of variance, the skilled player loses their edge, and the amateur gains a enormous edge. I kind of believe that when you apply that logic to the Bitcoin protocol and you look at how the 2-week difficulty adjustment is so far away from the 4-year halving event, and that you try to hold the price at this intrinsic value, that it was done by design in order to create volatility so that you could have unskilled players compete at the highest level with the most skilled players in the world.
I mean, it would make sense, right? In terms of, at least that's what we're seeing the final product present itself as. And to me, one of the things that I always go back to is like, was it intentional or not? Right. And some people would argue, oh, there's no way that you could know through game theory, the volatility and the leveling of the playing field between skill sets, yada, 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 whatever. Well, at the end of the day, you can say whether it was intentional or not, but that's where we are today, because that's what it does do. Right. And the volatility, that is what it does. And so you kind of walk through this stuff, and it's not an argument ever on, is this true? Is this not true? It's always an argument. People will go back, especially detractors, and argue on, was this the intention of the design? which I think is frankly, not really an argument worth having, because it is what it is. And these are the facts that we have today. And we can see how they're playing out, in kind of practicality on a daily basis.
One of the things that I read, and this is going back to that book, the Book of Satoshi, where it's all of his quotes that kind of, encapsulated into a single book. Early on, there were people that were, this is whenever WikiLeaks was having issues with how they were going to receive payment. And so all these people started showing up on these Bitcoin forums and saying, hey, this is our big opportunity. Let's have WikiLeaks run Bitcoin on the website. And you know what Satoshi's response was? He was adamantly opposed to this. Adamantly opposed to it. He says, no, we are not at the point where we need attention right now. And so for me, that specific engagement and that specific quote in the book was really powerful, because he knew very well that he needed a lot of time, and he needed a lot of entrenchment, and he needed a lot of refinement to make this thing become a global currency. And it just further compounded my belief that the Trojan horse analogy was a deep, very deep time fuse that I think he was erring on the side of caution by pushing the 4-year halving cycle out to the date that he ended up using, because he really knew that this thing needed time to churn, to get that entrenchment into the existing financial rails.
Do you think Satoshi is somewhere still watching this and saying, wow, it's playing out how I designed?
Hell yeah.
I tend to agree with you. It's pretty crazy to see all this play out again just so quickly. What